Hi, this is a really special video today because this is a birthday cake for my goddaughter Amelia, who is one of the nicest, kindest people I know. And because I can't be with her and can't see her on her birthday, I wanted to make her a cake and hopefully she can follow the link and make a cake for herself. So the ingredients for this cake are caster sugar, self-raising flour, eggs, milk, vanilla extract and some sugar strands. We're making a funfetti cake, so it means that there's going to be colour throughout the sponge, so it will look like a party cake when we cut into it. And the equipment I need is, I've got two 8-inch tins that I've greased with some butter and lined them. I've got a standing mixer, but you can either use a lot of arm power or you can use a hand whisk to make this cake. I've got weighing scales to weigh out my ingredients, a measuring spoon, a spatula, and I've got a knife to cut my butter because, as you can see by my big jumper, it's freezing cold here, so my butter's a bit cold. Let's get started. Okay, so the first thing we do is we cream our butter and our sugar. So I've got 225 grams of butter, which I'm just going to cut up and pop into the bowl. I'm cutting it up because it's easier to mix, and also it is a bit chilly here today, so the butter is a little bit hard. And so I'm adding that into my bowl, and then I'm adding the same amount of sugar. So 225 grams of sugar. And it used to be much better in the olden days when it was in ounces, because then it was always 8, 8, 8, 8, 8 and 4. But now we've gone into grams, it's all a bit trickier. So we've got 225 grams of butter and 225 grams of caster sugar. So I'm just going to beat this on high until it's nice and creamy. Okay, so this has been mixing for probably 3 or 4 minutes now. You can use margarine if you want instead of butter, but butter is better for you and it also tastes nicer. So I'm now going to add 4 eggs. So I'm just going to crack them in one by one. I have dropped all the shell in before. If the mix curdles, which means it splits, you can bring it back together with a little bit of flour, but I don't think you'll notice the difference anyway once it's cooked. So 3rd egg goes in, and my 4th egg. At this point, I'm just going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla extract. And then I'm going to stop the motor to scrape down the sides. If you were doing this by hand, I would whip the eggs up in a little bowl first. But I think that Amelia has got a hand whisk, so I think she will be fine. I hope you really enjoy making this cake, Amelia. Here we are, so I've scraped down the sides. I'm just going to give it a good whisk together now on the highest speed. Okay, so the eggs are in, the sugar's in, the butter's in, the vanilla's in. So now I'm going to add in 3 tablespoons of these sugar strands. The brighter colour, the better. Look at them. And I'm going to mix them in. Oh, let's just go for a 4th one just for fun. So we're going to do 4 of the sugar strands, and we're going to mix that all together. The only thing to do now is to add the flour. So we've finished with the whisk. I'm just going to pop this in the sink. And I'm going to add in my flour. I don't need to sieve it. It's fine the way it is, and I'm just going to fold it in. So we fold the flour in because if we mix it with our whisk, then you will stretch out the gluten, and instead of having a nice crumb with your cake, it will be a chewy cake. So I'm getting there. I'm just going to add in a couple of tablespoons of milk just to loosen the mixture a little bit. I've got my oven on at 180, and the cake should take, I reckon, about 20 to 25 minutes in the oven. So here we are, we're just mixing our mixture so it's a lovely, what we call a dropping consistency. So if you lift it up and you were to bang it on the side, it should drop quite easily off your spatula. I think this looks like it could do with another tablespoon of milk. So what I'm just going to add another tablespoon of milk. Obviously it depends on the size of your eggs. It depends on your flour, how much liquid you would need. So you want to make sure it's a nice consistency that's going to be easy to stir and easy to level in your tins. So there we are. You can see all the colours, you can see the mixture, and we're ready to just fill our tins. So I've got these 2 tins here, both 8 inches, and they have been greased and lined. The easiest way to do that is to just draw around the base of your tin with a pencil and then cut it out. So I'm just going to divide my mixture easily between the 2 tins. Does that look about equal? I think not. We are, we're getting there. So this mixture can also be made into cupcakes. They would just take a little bit less time in the oven. And there we go. So that's that. So that's all the mixture between the 2 tins. I'm just going to spread it out with my knife. And we've used self-raising flour, so that should give it a nice oomph in the oven with the heat to help it rise, so we can have a nice light cake that we can spread with jam and icing and make a proper birthday cake. So there we go, that's our funfetti cake mixture ready for Amelia to put into the oven. 180 degrees. I'm going to check it in about 20 minutes and see if it's light and springy. Okay, so these are our cakes out the oven. They're nice and golden. And now I'm going to turn them out onto the rack. The way you know your cake is done is because it springs back when you press it. And also it slightly comes away from the side of the tin. So there's usually like a slight gap between the side of the tin and your cake. So I'm just going to run round it with a knife. I'm going to turn it out onto the rack, and this means it doesn't sweat. It gets the air all round it to allow it to cool so that we can ice it and make it into a proper birthday cake. So this one is just coming out. So there we are. So we're going to leave these until they're absolutely cool so that we can put our icing on without the icing melting. You can just see the start of some of the colours through it. Okay, so there we go, our sponge funfetti cakes. Okay, so the cake's been cooling overnight and now we're ready to ice the cake and decorate it. So I usually do double the amount of icing sugar to butter. So however much icing sugar you use, I've got 250 grams here, and then using 125 grams of butter. So I've already got my butter in my bowl and I've been softening it because it's quite hard. I'm going to add in my icing sugar. I'm going to add in a teaspoon of vanilla. And then a little trick is to add in a tablespoon of boiled water, freshly boiled water, and then we should really get a nice soft whipped buttercream. So I'm going to start the mixer and I'm going to put this over the top, otherwise the icing sugar will go everywhere. Okay, so I ended up adding about 3 tablespoons of freshly boiled water to this, and you can see it's quite nice and light and fluffy, so it's going to be quite easy to put on the cake. So I'm going to get started with decorating my cake. So I'll pick whichever one I think looks the nicest for on top. So I'm going to use that one on top and this one on the bottom. I'm going to put a little bit of icing on the plate so it doesn't slip around when I'm decorating. And then I'm going to pop that on like that. And the first thing I'm going to do is layer a layer of strawberry jam onto the middle of my cake. I don't think any cake should be allowed to be a cake without jam in the middle. So we've got some lovely strawberry jam here. And then I'm going to fill my piping bag up, and I'm going to pipe some dots of buttercream in the middle too, and they'll look quite pretty when I put the top on. An easy way to fill your piping bag is to just fold it over a glass, or if you've got bigger ones you can do it over a measuring jug, and then I'm just popping the icing inside. I haven't got a nozzle for this because I can't find it, so I'm just going to cut the bottom off and get piping. So there we are, we've got a full piping bag. Push the icing down, and then I'm going to cut the bottom off. So I'm just piping blobs round the side of the cake, and if it is a bit too soft you can always put it in the fridge for a few minutes before you put the top layer on. So I'm just going to do a swirl in the middle. So I'm ready now to put my top layer of cake on, and you can see how you can see the blobs of icing look quite pretty. I always think they look a little bit like teeth. I've got a feeling I'm going to have to make a bit more icing, but I'm just going to start circles on top of my cake. Keep twisting it down and gently pressing. So you're using two hands on your icing bag and holding it straight up and down. And I am going to have to make some more icing. There we go. Okay, so I made a bit more icing. I used about another 150 grams of icing sugar and 75 grams of butter, and I'm just going to pipe them round in circles on the cake. I'm hoping that I've got enough this time. There we are, and I'm just going to do a big one in the middle that I'm going to spread out. There we are. So I'm going to use my back of a teaspoon. No, I won't. I'm going to use my palette knife. It's got some jam on it to just carefully spread. So this is going to be the bit where my candle goes. So I'm just spreading that out there. If you were very sensible, you would do that bit first and you'd pipe on top of it, but I like to do things the hard way round. There we are. So this is what it looks like so far, and now we're going to sprinkle on top. If you put your sprinkles into the lid first, then you don't get too many on at once. So we've got our sprinkles on, and you remember we put the sprinkles inside the sponge, so we're going to have loads of sprinkles on. There we go, and there is our beautiful birthday cake for my beautiful goddaughter Amelia. Happy birthday, Amelia. I hope you enjoy making your cake.